The Right to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download their top-rated sportsbook app and use promo code RTRS when you sign up. And brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky to get yours. Kornblau & Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And of course, our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order by using promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, much as you would love to escape them, they continue to progress. The James Harden rumors take another step, perhaps toward Philadelphia, from a legitimate source. I came up with the 8 biggest questions that I have for the Sixers this year, and I will pose them to Mike, having nothing to do with Harden or trades. We will catch up on the Lorenzo Brown mailbag, and Kyrie Irving spoke again. So we have that quote, and I think that's about it. Oh, and the top 10, one Sixers adjacent player in the ESPN NBA top 10 I wanted to bring up to you, see what you thought. Before we get going, I want to remind you, we have a YouTube channel of all of the Rickies. It is video and clips all the time. It is run by CJ, who has made our videos look almost too good, I would say, for the pod. They looked appropriate like I was doing them before, and now they look even better. So the full video is up there as well as clips during the week. So we're up to I think 2,300 subscribers. So sign up if you want to watch the video like a total fucking psycho. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy whose Christmas present to me is for him to read all of the Apple podcast reviews when we hit 3,000 ratings. That is Mike Levin. Thank you, buddy.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Come on.
Never. Absolutely
This
not.
one time?
I never listen to them. I don't acknowledge it. It's the dumbest thing. Of all the dumb things that you have done. And it's a lot. It's a long list. And I'm not saying I'm exempt from any things. This is the consistently doing this is the dumbest thing. And you need to put your dumb boy pants on and keep doing it yourself.
Well, that sucks. For some reason, what they do is the ratings come in like bursts, it seems like, and it was quiet for a while, but now it seems like every week it's another 5 or 10 of them. So we're up to 2,805, which means we're 195 away from me reading all of the reviews from 2,000 to 3,000 on a pod. It takes 2 to 4 hours, depending on how long they are in there. This week's Apple podcast review is brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order by using promo code Dave Silver at kineticskateboarding.com. I fucking beat Kinetic Skateboarding this morning. They put this awesome hoodie up for sale at midnight, like they always fucking do with the midnight, as if anybody is awake. I got up at 7 a.m. There was still one there in my size, and I bought it. So ha, ha, ha. For the skateboarder in your life, or even just for the person who wears clothes, Kinetic Skateboarding. The subject line is, this podcast will scar you. I just watched The Big Lebowski for the first time, and I heard the line, "Larry, sweetie, the man is here." I got PTSD of listening to this pod. I can't decide if this is because the pod has scarred me for life or I love listening to it. I think it's closer to the former. I would agree. Of course, that clip coming in the Amos and the Chef opening song. I never knew what that was. I guess I know it's Big Lebowski now. I had no idea. Are you a fan of that movie? I've watched it like twice and I fell asleep both times. You a Big Lebowski guy?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Lebowski guy, but I enjoy the film. Sure.
That movie and Kingpin, I just, maybe it's because I was never like are they movies that you think are funny if you're high? I've never understood the humor in either of them. And I'm a weird humor type of guy, but neither movie makes me laugh at all. I get bored.
That's fine.
Is that what it is? I'm trying to how would you describe the humor in those? And have you seen Kingpin?
No.
Okay.
Lebowski's funny in a bunch of darkly different ways. I think it's Coen Brothers.
Yeah, I never got it.
There you go.
The James Harden rumors. So it's been a big portion of the last couple of pods, and they continue. He is now in camp. And Mark Stein of the New York Times, formerly of ESPN, who I would call one of the 5 or 6 most legit sort of, breaking news type reporter guys, right? That's fair. He's up there. He's not Shams or Woj, but he's right behind it. He says, as the NBA season begins tonight, Philadelphia ranks as the most likely destination when the Rockets eventually reach the point of trading James Harden, league sources say. The Rockets insist for now they will not trade Harden. The Sixers insist for now they will not trade Ben Simmons. But sources say familiarity between the front offices can ultimately diffuse any lingering tension from Daryl Morey's departure from Houston to Philadelphia. My first question for you is, there's a lot of it seems like nervous energy around this trade with Sixers fans, talking themselves into it, talking themselves out of it. What do you think ultimately the reaction is if it is, let's just say it is a very simple Harden for Simmons type thing? What is the feeling? Like, what's I can't figure it out. Like, it's not a signing, it's a trade of one of the big guys. I'm curious what your reaction would be and what you think the fan reaction would be.
I think it'd be like 45 minutes of lamenting Ben and not ever really working or getting a full chance to work with Ben and Joel. In a real Foles left the field with the lead situation, it would be Ben and Joel were never healthy for the playoffs together.
Yep.
And that would be something that I would be hung up on, and I'd be concerned about like wing defense a lot if they made that trade. Not that they couldn't adjust that and rectify that over the course of the season. I think it would be a celebration type of thing.
You think so?
It would be the kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, James Harden, he's MVP candidate for the last 5-6 years, won a couple. One of the most dynamic offensive players ever. Like, if we get him, people will be happy. I think it'll be nervous happy, but it'll be like, holy shit. Maybe this did the thing.
You mentioned the wing defender thing. When I was thinking about this trade, as I think there's probably a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened yet, but one of them has to be whether it's Simmons plus or no. You can completely forget about the idea of trading for him without Simmons. Like, that's not going to happen. But the other thing I was thinking is, well, if it's straight up, would I include a first for them to throw in PJ Tucker? And I think I would, pretty, even though he's only got a year left and you probably have to pay him, and you have to do some stuff to make the salaries match in that case, or in both cases, but I would love to have PJ Tucker on the team too. And I think he is diverse enough as a defender. I think almost, he can't really guard guards the way you could throw Simmons on a guard, but he can guard 4s and 5s in a way that Simmons, like the stronger ones, can't quite do yet, or you're not quite as, not quite as confident. His ability, I've never seen him miss a corner 3, would be incredible to be able to get him as well if you were able to get Harden.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be it'd be interesting. It'd be, it's fucking James Harden.
Yeah.
It would be, it'd be something else. I don't know how James Harden on another team would look at this point, because he's played such a specific kind of basketball for so many years where the offense is just him doing what he wants to do. And so I don't know what that would look like. Kevin Arnovitz made the point on Windhorse podcast that if the Sixers wanted to trade Ben Simmons, if they wanted to explore the market on it, that they could get more than a 31-year-old disgruntled 2 years remaining James Harden, which is interesting and not something I had thought of.
Well,
if you are going to trade Simmons, is this like the best you can do? And the answer might be yes. In my mind, Harden is as good as he is. And if you start to think of what is Embiid's window and how long can you reasonably expect him to be happy and healthy. And so I think Harden, I might not agree with Kevin, but even opening the possibility up to what else could they get that would allow them to contend right now, it's certainly interesting.
I think in the NBA at this point, unless something were to change, you're basically looking at your future in 2 or 3 year windows anyway. And I mentioned this on the last pod. We could say that Ben and Joel will be together. You have this, well, why would you trade 8 to 10 years for 3 years? But the fact is that if Ben and Joel never don't progress to a championship level team in the next 2 or 3 years, one of them's asking out or getting traded anyway. I believe that would be the result. But I guess my counter to what Arnovitz said is maybe if you're looking at a total asset haul, maybe if you called Oklahoma City, right? Or you called New Orleans and you said, hey, I want 5 of those 87 first round picks you have. You could probably do that for Ben Simmons. But when he says you could get more than Harden, the problem is that you need what this team needs. I suppose we could go through team by team and see what would be possible. I just don't understand what that could possibly be, aside from more picks,
Yeah, for sure. I think it's as far as like guys that would fit with Embiid, that would be a win now situation. I think like Bradley Beal is off the table because of they certainly wouldn't be trying to pair Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons. That'd be not the right fit.
Yeah. Devin Booker would not be on the table, I don't think.
No. Yeah. I don't think that there's as many. I like the idea of opening it up, but I don't think that there's as many like reasonable things that would fit with the timeline and what this team needs in the event of that kind of trade than Harden is. I don't know. I mean, I think we'd buy in. Like I'd buy in a second. Like it'd be very quickly. But I just have this romantic idea of it working with Ben and Joel and winning with our guys always feels better. And that Ben and Joel appreciate each other more and appreciate what they each do and bring to the table. And then now that Daryl has surrounded them with less clunky, shouldery men is good, especially because Joel missed the first couple playoffs or was not fully healthy for the first couple playoffs, and then Ben missed last playoffs. And I think it's the kind of like, okay, we need each other type of thing, and that's in my Napa Wine weekend fever dreams. I just feel like it's going to be a good season, and I want to get the chance to. It's like see it. Like let's see what it looks like for a little while with a new coach, with legitimate shooting around them as they've matured and realized how to do different things in the NBA and how they can be more successful. I just want to see it, and I think that there's a risk in that, right? There's no risk in saying, okay, we're just not going to make this trade yet, because they could turn around and trade him to Miami or obviously Brooklyn. And then be done with it and you won't have the chance. But I do think that after this much shaking up, to go into a season with a new coach, a new GM, and a bunch of new players, I think you sort of it'd be another early pivot. But I mean that's what you got to do to make it happen. So I'm of two minds of it. But me personally saying I would love to see it for at least a few months.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by our dear friend and sponsor for so long, just so long. That is LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Big news. We are now up to 205 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners who have purchased engagement rings from Lee Pavorsky. We have not heard from number 200 about me marrying them, Mike. I'm a little concerned.
Well, not only do these people exist, the people that don't exist definitely don't exist. The people that want you to marry them exist even less.
That is a really, really, really good point. LL is there for your engagement ring needs. He is also there for your Christmas, or, we're in the middle of Hanukkah, but Christmas or Hanukkah present needs, New Year's needs, Valentine's Day needs, I fucked up and I need to apologize needs, I love you and I want to get you a gift for no reason needs, all of that stuff. The 12 days of Pavorsky are going on right now with deals every day. He's going to hook you up in the holiday season. He's there to hook you up. When you go to LL Pavorsky Jewelers, first of all, if you're comfortable going, it is safe and clean. You will be the only one there. It is by appointment only, or you can handle everything online, which is as safe as it could possibly be. He's willing to do that. He'll have an appointment with you, do everything over video online. 215-627-2252 is his phone number. If you're uncomfortable calling because you hate the phone, as it is 2020, you could just email him, lee@llpavorsky.com, or you could tweet at him at LL Pavorsky. The store has been at 707 Walnut for now over 30 years. Supporters of our charities and really everything else that we do. That is LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Has begun texting me after these taglines, things like, "You better choose me to move in with," and "Still waiting for you and Alyssa."
Oh, yeah, the roommate thing. I forgot about that. Back to the Ricky. The other thing that could happen, I was talking with our group, our group of New York. There's a group of like 8 or 10 New York Ricky listeners / Sixers fans, and one of them mentioned like the value of Simmons. And my guess is that the first 2 months of this season make him more valuable, because I think this team will make him look better. There is the possibility, not probability, but it's out there, and this is with waiting for anything, that this thing doesn't work and looks clunky or looks clunky, and there is a question on either his or Embiid's value. Like, not that Aaron Gordon was ever Ben Simmons, but there was this point at which Aaron Gordon went from, wow, think about what he could be, to, well, I don't know how I can pay that guy $30 million, right? And yeah. I think there is a possibility, whether it's a Joel injury, whether it's a Ben not quite knowing what he is or advancing in the right way, where all of a sudden the value of those players takes at least a notable drop. I'm not saying it would be worth where Aaron Gordon is, and I think Aaron Gordon's probably not worth very much right now, but I think you are on some level risking that too. That's a bet that you're making.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I think that there's a chance. I think it's more likely that Simmons has injury concerns right now after missing the rest of the playoffs. However small the Sixers playoffs were last season. And him showing up and being healthy and doing his thing with shooting around them and operating in pick and roll, which people are talking about more and more, will make him seem like, oh, that is a guy you can build around. And what if you just run the Ben Simmons offense in transition, moving everything and don't have to like let him stand there while Joel does his thing in the post.
I agree with you. I agree that most likely it will help, and it wasn't just the playoffs last year for Ben. Remember, I mean, there was the back injury before the playoffs.
Well, the throwing up.
Yes.
The two separate
back injuries.
Completely unrelated back injuries. The second of which made him throw up.
Right. But unrelated to the first injury that he had just
totally
come
unrelated.
back from.
I can't even imagine that you would even insinuate that it would be a similar injury or related.
The one thing that I think we don't really know Ben Simmons is a guy, right? I mean, he's pretty stoic. It comes across, depending on what the mood is, it either comes across aloof, it comes across like he does not, at least when he talks, come across as somebody where we can understand what he feels. I think this situation, if he really is able to internalize things the way that he appears to internalize them, this situation with his name in trade rumors right before the season, he would be uniquely qualified to deal with this and not let it bother him. But I do wonder, as somebody who is, a professional, prideful, young, all of those things, how this affects him going into the season, if he thinks that at the very least, if he thinks that his GM, his brand new GM, is shopping him.
Yeah, I don't.
Especially when the previous front office seemed to specifically care about what he wanted, so much.
Sure, and in some parts of the front office wanting to step on a medium-sized ladder and punch his teammate in the face. As far as personality goes, I think he's just like a kid. He's just like a guy. He obviously has an interesting life and backstory, but like as a human being, I don't think there's any, like, he's just a kid. Like, he's a kid who plays basketball, plays video games, dates attractive women. Like, it's like, he's just a guy. There he is. Like, I don't think there's much more to like unearth, really. I think he like also cares about shit. Like, he's really like, as far as giving back to the community and like being vocal about the things he believes in, I think that's pretty cool and somewhat rare for players as young as him. But I think, like, there's not like a secret, like incredibly interesting personality in there. I think he's just like, that's just who he is. And as far as internalizing, going into the season with trade talks, it's not like we want to get rid of Ben. It's James Harden. I think there's a level of respect that people around the league have for Harden. And I think, he knows it's a business. Everybody knows it's a business. It's not like they're like, this isn't working. Ben and Joel can't work together. We're not happy with how things are going. It's just like, hey, James Harden's available, and people keep speculating like that would make sense for the Sixers. Like, it just doesn't. I feel like it's different than other trade rumors where it's like, let's get him out of here. He doesn't fit, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said, except for his ability, or any person's ability, to just say, well, if I'm going to be in trade rumors, I'm glad it's for somebody so good. If he is just a kid, or not, I'm not trying to minimize him. You know what I mean? Like, if he is what you say he is, then I don't know. I feel like that lingers in the back of your mind forever. Maybe. Whether it, and I don't think he gets on the court and actively thinks about it. But when he thinks about his future here, I think it could, I'm not saying it would, I'm saying it could, him as a human, plant a bug in his head that, makes him suspicious. And every NBA player has to live with that possibility. It's part of their contract and part of the reality of the situation. But I do think it could, be something that sticks with him. I hope that he's able to do what you say and just sort of push forward and, be what it is. It is what it is. But even the idea of uprooting your life, like having to think about that as a 24-year-old, 25-year-old,
sure.
The other,
if he goes, so you still want to do the Harden trade, right?
Yeah.
You would still do it.
Yeah.
If in a world where he goes to Brooklyn, I think we'd all be like, let's see this shit happen. Mm-hmm. But if he went to Miami in a Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, and everything we have type of thing to be around Jimmy and Bam, would you be pissed off about it?
No, I would sit and wait for the oncoming Jimmy thing that I always warn about. I don't think I was actually going to bring up Herro. I mentioned the Herro. I actually texted Kevin O'Connor about it. People kept talking about the Bill Simmons, James Harden, like, trade rumor thing. And that's where he mentioned the Denver, Brooklyn 3-way thing. So I went and I listened to it, and he didn't mention Miami, and I actually texted KOC and I was like, what about something based around Herro? And then, I tweet, like, I saw people discussing it when Miami was brought into the equation, and people sort of shitting on the idea of Herro being a centerpiece, a Miami trade. I think, am I mistaken? Herro looked fucking awesome to me last year as a rookie, as a 20-year-old rookie. The idea of Herro making $3, $4, and $5 million the next 3 years, and they only have 2 first rounders to trade. But the idea of Herro and a few first round picks seemed like a really good offer to me, better than the Nets offer. What do you think of Herro? Was I crazy in thinking he's good?
I mean, Tyler Herro, he's definitely good, and he's after 1 year at Kentucky to come be as good as he was in Miami already is impressive. It's James Harden. Like I think Tyler Herro could, make an all-star game or two, but I don't think that he's ever going to be the best player in a championship team. Obviously, it's early in his career to say that, but he's a dynamic shooter off movement. He's got a little bit of ball handling sauce, and he can. He's a better distributor than he showed at Kentucky, but he's pretty small as far as a wing defender. He's not. I don't think he's ever going to defend at a high level. And it's hard to say when you're trading for James Harden. Obviously, James Harden is now a little bit of a distressed James Harden, but I would be if I'm trading James Harden and the best I'm getting back is Tyler Herro, even at a rookie contract for a lot of years, it'd be that's all I can get. Really? And a couple picks that are going to be in the 20s. That's the best. That's the situation. I don't know. I would need, and it's tough. This is a tough situation for Houston to be in that if you're trading James Harden, you're going to be okay, who is going to be our next franchise cornerstone that can get us back to the championship if that's what you think is, they want, or if they just want to not pay the tax or whatever it is. And most teams don't have those guys.
Right.
The teams that James wants to go to are championship contenders who don't have picks that are going to be in the lottery this year. I would, if I was the Rockets, I would be trying to get to someone that has a pick in the top 10 this year, because this is going to be a great draft class, and at least you can have some.
But that seems impossible.
You can have someone for a full thing. There's someone. The Warriors have.
Right. They have the Minnesota pick.
Minnesota's pick. Yeah. And had this happened prior to the draft, maybe the Warriors would have been another place for their second overall pick. Although not a great draft class to find someone to build your franchise around. So that's the issue, and that's why I wonder if some team will just take a Toronto-like swing and is hey, we have the stuff, and we want James Harden, and it's going to be huge for our fan base, and we're going to try to convince them that this is the right place to stay, wherever it ends up being. And Houston just says fuck you, you're going there, and you have 2 years left on your contract. This is how it works.
I think the other thing that I would bring into, I don't know how it was just one game, but I watched that half of that preseason game last night. And not that I think John Wall is also the best player on a championship team, but after not seeing him for 2 years, he looked like John Wall to me,
Mm-hmm.
So
including some unnecessary 2015 long twos.
Yep. And the idea of Herro with Wall makes a little bit more sense than the idea of Wall with Simmons. I have a little bit higher of if we had a player who did what Tyler Herro just did in the playoffs as a rookie, 20, I think we would project him as making more than 1 or 2 all-star teams. I think if he were a Sixer, we would be elated. So I just think
it's good. I mean, it's just a matter of I don't know how you have to be really, really good to be that good. Mm-hmm. And Shake Milton looked that good for a few weeks. I don't think Shake Milton's going to make multiple all-star teams that should be built around, but I think he's an NBA player, and that's good. I think Herro's an NBA player, and that's good. And I think they're both starter level guys. Herro probably has significantly more upside as far as shooting off the bounce and creating for himself. But yeah, I think it's easy. It's really easy to look at someone as a rookie and they can play. They're playing right now. They can get their own shot, which is the most exciting thing that people see visually as far as is this guy a guy? Can he get his own shot? Mm-hmm. Is number one on the list. But once people pay attention to them more, or they're expected to add different stuff, or they're now the focus of the offense, are they going to be able to keep elevating their game in that way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the question people asked about Tatum, when he came in and was so good as a rookie. I will say,
and he couldn't, and that's why Tatum sucks, and everyone agrees that he's bad.
Right. And then, Herro just had a better game in the playoffs than either Joe or Ben has had in the playoffs. So, I guess And the other, so your original question is, if Miami makes that trade, am I pissed off? I guess the question is, do we think Miami chooses that over us, or it becomes that the Sixers decided not to trade Ben for Harden?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I would be annoyed. Because I don't see another path to that level of player. Now, every year something happens where there's a path to that type of player. A year ago, I didn't think this path to Harden was there, right? Before they made after the Westbrook trade, I may have guessed that the path to Harden was there. A year or two before the Kawhi path didn't seem like it was there. Maybe Golden State has a fucking terrible season and there's a path to Steph Curry next year. I don't know, so maybe it could happen, but there's, hoping that a path like that happens again is you're crossing your fingers. So, Mike, I have to tell you that the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process. Big news from Team Kornblau this week.
Let's hear it.
The Kornblaus have their first dog.
Ah,
yeah. Here, let me bring up the name. I don't know if I'm allowed to share the photo, so I will not share the photo. I haven't signed an NDA about this. Fauci Klaus Kornblau. So named after clearly Dr. Fauci, and then Joel Embiid's, may he rest in peace, Klaus Kornblau. So
fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. He said, "Oh wow!" He said he's going to make an official announcement next month. Well, you get, fuck it. You get the announcement right here. Congratulations to the Kornblau family. So not only is he good at dog naming, he's a great personal injury lawyer too. The premier one in the entire fucking area. You can't go anywhere else. Kornblau's been with the Ricky for 3 years now, and he has agreed for 2021 to stay with the Ricky. So we're very excited. Who is the other Kornblau, you ask? Well, it depends on the day. But in the name, it's Adam and his mom. His parents started this firm years ago, 40 years ago. He now runs it with his mom. And what he does is he takes personal injury lawsuits and makes them like less intimidating and scary, and gives you a person who is really going to care about you and care about the outcome on the way out. You see commercials, you hear commercials, you see them on like TV and websites for personal injury law firms. And really what they are is referral services. You're not even getting that person when you see them on TV or hear them. But when you call Kornblau and Kornblau, you get Kornblau. He has helped tons of our listeners, not just with personal injury lawsuits, but with everything. I hate to waste his time, but if you have any, he asked for it. If you have any legal concern whatsoever, Kornblau is more than willing to help you. And if you've been injured in any way, don't be a hero. Don't try to tough it out. If it could be somebody else's fault, if you think that's the case, call Kornblau. Any sort of personal injury, medical malpractice, injured at work, car accident, slip and fall, all that kind of stuff. Give them a call or shoot them an email. It doesn't cost you anything. 215-576-7200 to ask for Adam, or email kornblau@kornblauandkornblau.com. Kornblau spelled with a K. The A-N-D is spelled out in that email address, but the rest...
Guess.
That's the best way to do it. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. Back to the pod. One thing I wanted to check in on from the last pod, because you hinted at it, but then I went and read the story.
Yeah, the story is as I expected. I just was a little bit tentative to say it. I was like, I don't feel like I have all the facts right. But it is what I thought.
Yeah, so this was Doc Rivers and Paul George. So what's interesting is there's a 7-minute interview that was on ESPN. I watched it this morning with Doc Rivers, where Doc says about his time in LA that the players accepted one of the new guys and not the other. He doesn't know why. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, they accepted Kawhi. They didn't accept all the new guys.
Yeah.
So
let's keep it vague, Doc.
Right. So this is days after some other shots traded publicly. And you had hinted at this, and then I read the story. So Seth Curry is married to Doc's daughter. And you had said that Paul George had dated one of Doc's daughters, and it is the same daughter. But Paul George also cheated on Doc's daughter with an exotic dancer, had a baby with that dancer. My question becomes, who on the planet thought that Doc Rivers could coach Paul George after that? That happened to his daughter. Like, there was no way. If the fact that Doc Rivers didn't do who went to beat up Matt Barnes, or did Matt Barnes go to beat up some coach? Who was it?
Derek Fisher?
Yeah. Like, how did Doc Rivers not strangle Paul George in practice? I can't fucking get over it.
I don't know. And the issues between them seem to be like Paul George's like role in the offense and him wanting more of Kawhi's shot profile.
Right.
Very strange. I don't pretend to know. Like, Doc has an odd relationship with Austin Rivers. Who knows? Maybe he's very hands off. You live your own life, Dad, and I'm not going to be the tough guy, Dad. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know that if I was dating a woman and cheated on her to have a baby with a dancer.
No offense to dancers. We're not judging.
No, what's cheating on her with anyone? I would not want to then play basketball for their dad. That wouldn't be something that I'd be excited about. And I certainly wouldn't be like, here's my issues with the offense, pal.
Right.
Like I'd be like, I'm happy to be here, whatever you need. I would be I'd fit in so well. I'd get the donuts for everybody. I'd be like happy to be there, like most pleasant guy in the office. Let's just make sure everything's cool.
And then, by the way, when that guy gets fired and I get a $200 million contract extension, I just sort of fucking let it go.
I wouldn't talk shit.
No.
I probably wouldn't talk shit, and I probably wouldn't be blaming. That's right. Yes, I agree. And I think, and Alyssa makes this point a lot. Paul George is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
She said last night as we were watching Lakers Clippers that Paul George is her least favorite player in the league right now, which is interesting because Paul George coming out of Fresno State and being the Indiana guy was like he was drafted like late in the lottery. It was a big out of nowhere success story. So cool, so fun to watch. 3-level scorer, like rangy wing defender. Like look at this guy. Like took over Danny Granger's team. Like look at this is awesome. And then he goes to play with Oklahoma City and Russell, and this is fun. Like he's going to stay and all that stuff. And then like it just torpedoed his approval rating, unbelievably, by such a remarkable way. And but the most impressive thing is having issues with the girl you fucked over, her dad, having issues with his rotations. I can't wrap my mind around making that the issue. But I guess that's what being a professional is. I don't know.
He's a fucking clown, that guy. Zach Lowe wrote a really good article. I would say it is the longest article that I've read completely in a very long time about basketball, about Paul George. And he sort of went back to that playoff success he had. And it was pretty outrageous, like that Indiana team was really going up against that Heat team, like giving them all they could take. And Paul George and then he's just become since then like playoff failure after playoff failure. And he's sort of like annoying about the entire thing. But this is, look, man, you fall in love with somebody else, it's whatever. But again, it's the girl's dad is your coach. It's unreal. A couple of other NBA things related to what we just talked about. The ESPN Top 100, we discussed where the Sixers fell in the last pod. The top 10 came out. Okay, James Harden was 9th. That seems sort of outrageous. Yeah.
I would put – I don't think you can reasonably put Harden behind Steph Curry at this point. I don't think that is –
no,
realistic.
Yeah, and I love Steph Curry, but not right now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And
like, look, Steph is great, and Klay Thompson is obviously great. But if the Warriors going from championship contender to maybe won't make the playoffs, even though they've replaced some of Klay Thompson, without when Klay went down, that's a Steph, you got to, even in the West, like there's still plenty of guys there that if he's the guy, he should be able to do that. And I think I love Steph, but like talking about him as one of the couple best players in the league, just because they're, Klay's great. Klay's awesome. What Klay can do is just what Danny Green does to like the nth degree, but it's still like he's a shooter off ball.
Right.
Like he's great. I'm not saying he's not great, but like if that team doesn't make the playoffs still, then like that's an indictment on your best player. If they're like now being talked about as one of the like bottom couple teams in the West.
Well, yeah, like the comparison is I don't care who else is on the team with the Rockets. I bet they'll make the playoffs if Harden's on the team. And you saw that now it was 4 years ago or whatever when it happened in the beginning. But I think I have a problem I love Dame Lillard too. I have a problem putting Lillard ahead of him. And then they put Luka Doncic fourth ahead of Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard. I can't get there. What does Luka Doncic do that is better? He's just doing at this point a James Harden impression, and James Harden has been more successful. So how is he better than James Harden? How is he better than Kawhi Leonard? How is he better than Jokic? I'm just not buying it yet. It seems a little crazy. Like the Doncic stuff has gotten a little crazy.
Right in your fucking face, Spike.
My face.
Right in your face.
I guess they'll hang up in the where the Mavericks play. They'll hang up a banner that says 2 first-round games with Doncic's number on it. So
I do think that my prediction is that Dallas and Portland both finish ahead of Denver this year in the standings.
Dallas and Portland. Portland's interesting. They had what is roundly discussed as a really good offseason. I would like to see it,
Should have watched them last night.
I didn't watch them.
Took the Kings out back.
Oh,
Did a great job. Covington played well. Derek Jones. I think them having a healthy Nurkic is huge.
Yep.
Zach Collins, we'll see. They've become like I love Gary Trent. You were right about Gary Trent. I did not believe in Gary Trent coming out of Duke, and he
was awesome in the bubble.
Monster. Yeah, for sure. And my kind of player too. And I think this is really like it's an interesting team for team building because like Dame and CJ are guys you build around, but like their weaknesses defensively are so evident. Like very, very clear what they are. And it's a similar thing with like Simmons and Embiid as far as like what their weaknesses are together. They're obviously different weaknesses, but like you really have to account for those kinds of things. And so Portland goes out and gets Derek Jones and Robert Covington and drafts guys that can protect the rim. And just wants to get like big bodies. We'll see how Nas Little improves if that's a guy that ends up being in the rotation. Like
by the way,
becomes
they still had like I know it's another one of my guys, but Anthony Simons was supposed to blossom last year and didn't do it. But if he does do it, and you have another guard off the bench too to sort of run offense when those other guys aren't there, that makes you even more dangerous, I think.
Interesting team.
Yeah.
I'm compelled. I would love for Portland to make a real run this year.
Me
and
too.
For me to put it all on Covington.
Well, it works for all of us. I'm glad too.
That's right.
It took you a few years, but you were at one point years ago, you were a Dame doubter, but you've come around on Dame the last few years. You were.
I mean, I think he's gotten better.
Yeah.
The last couple of years for sure. I think his level of shot making is just absurd. But yeah, I mean, I kind of always question the how much you can build around a mostly no defense small guard, and I think that it's hard. Like it's hard to build around anybody like that. But I think they've done a pretty good job, and he's gotten better, and just the way he carries himself on the team, and like people want to play with him. I think that's a high character trait for a star player.
He's a tough dude. I like him. The other NBA thing before we get to the 8 biggest non-Harden things I came up with, Kyrie Irving, said he wasn't going to do press availability. He was going to let his play do the talking this year. They fined him $25,000, which is not very much. comparatively to what he makes. And he on Instagram posted a quote from Malcolm X, which was followed by, "I pray we use the quote fine money," he put it in quotes as if it's not actually fine money, "for the marginalized communities in need, especially seeing where the world is presently. I am here for peace, love, and greatness. So stop distracting me and my team and appreciate the art. We move different over here. I do not talk to pawns. My attention is worth more."
It's so interesting when quotes like that, when you're like just starting from such a good place and just like just a roller coaster straight down into the depths of hell. Like it's all just
what a dipshit.
There are people that are like so close, and then like their own, I don't know, ego or how special they are.
He could have even stopped it.
Like
peace,
comes
love,
in like,
and
I do not talk to pawns.
Yeah.
Like he could have just cut that statement off. Like, let's just somebody just stop him. Somebody please, for the love of God. But yeah, I do hope the money's used for marginalized communities in need, especially seeing where our world is presently. I don't think that the press is pawns. No. I don't think that we move different over here on the Nets. And I don't know what appreciating the art is as far as releasing a statement saying, "I'm not talking to the media because I don't want my words misconstrued. I'm going to play hard and have fun."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, stop distracting me and my team, bro. You are you're the distraction now. Like that's
he's just galaxy brain all the time.
Yeah, I would love for one of the press to go, "Okay, so let me get this straight. You have a specific limit on the amount of money that you're allowed to make. Your owner, who has never played basketball, could make you live in any one of 29 other cities on a whim if he felt like it. You're not allowed to go to clubs and restaurants unless the league says so. Who is the pawn again? I wonder, like if I got called that by Kyrie Irving, what a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot, this guy. He just sounds so dumb. Anyway, eight non-Harden issues that determine the success of the Sixers this year.
I have a ninth.
Okay. My first one. I want your opinion on all of them. Is Seth Curry, that's what a podcast is Seth Curry good, or is he more, he was on another team and we barely saw him, so we think he's good and we could have really used a player like that, but he's not actually good, like someone like Alec Burks or Wilson Chandler. There's a long line of players like that. Which one?
Alec Burks was actually good for us, and we needed his skill set very deeply. I think Seth Curry is good. I don't think he's great. I think his limitations are fairly clear, and I think that will possibly be a source of frustration. But simply doing something at a high level, which he does, as far as the last 4 years, just like his catch and shoot numbers are insane. Mm-hmm. Like, 99th, 98th, 96th percentile for those years. Mm-hmm. Unless he has a Sixers year, I guess we'll just call it, and shoots like 34% from three. Just doing that alone will be huge. And so I I share your concern about the actually good. And now that he doesn't play with like Luka Doncic and a ton of floor spacers and he's going to be asked to do more than he had, run a little offense, then I think there's concern there. But I feel fairly confident just the shooting alone is good enough that it will be seen as actually good.
I don't want to out him on this because I'm sure he wants to write something about it at some point. But after the trade, like 3 days later, Mike O'Connor shot me a text and he was like, "I just watched a lot of Seth Curry film." And he's like, "I don't know. I think he might not be that good." So we'll see. He, was playing 20 minutes.
He's on a fair contract is I think
he's worth
to his
having.
favor.
Yep. But he's not JJ Redick. I don't think,
No, he doesn't move.
He's slower.
Like him at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Next one. Is there any real way, and I know you're Mr. Positivity and we'll say this, is there any real way Tobias Harris can get better in a meaningful way that will actually help the Sixers go from the level the level they are at to the level they need to be? Or is he sort of is what he is at this point?
I think probably he is what he is.
Yeah.
I think he can shoot a higher percentage from three. He can get those shots off quicker.
Shoot more,
be more
at
willing.
least from three. I don't even care about percentage. Shoot more of them.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that he can get to the line a little bit. Like those, now that he is he's not going to have to play with Horford and Embiid at any point. So that's good. So he's a more natural position at the forward spot, I guess, if you're saying Simmons is a guard. So he will have some space to operate, especially when Simmons isn't on the court. Get to the line, get to the rim. You're big. I would love to see that. But I think assuming that it'll happen is perhaps misguided, because if he could do that, he probably would have done that already. But I think he's a helpful player to have. He's making a ton more money than they should be paying him. He tries on defense. He's got a big body. He's probably the Sixers' third best wing defender, which is not a great sign, but is the case.
Oh my God, you might be right. Well,
yeah.
So behind Simmons, behind Thibault, I don't think Ferguson's really going to play. Right?
I was going to say, I guess Danny. I guess Danny is there for that. So let's say fourth. But yeah, I mean, he's, as far as like a big body that can just absorb contact, he is. Justin Anderson as well. I think I would just love to see him do one of take more threes quickly or get to the line more regularly. And if one of those things happen, then I will be thrilled.
I think the first one is more likely. I also think it's possible that having Doc here and having some more shooting around him and maybe doing some Tobias and Embiid pick and roll could help raise Harris's value to where maybe it becomes slightly more tradable. Is also
last time Tobias Harris played for Doc Rivers, the Sixers traded a bunch for him.
Yeah,
so maybe somebody else would as well.
Alex Rucker get a job somewhere else.
I do like Tobias, and
he's a good dude.
And we talked about this. About this in the Ryan Howard conversation last week.
Yeah.
Like he's a good player. He's a good locker room guy. He is helpful. It's not like his skill set. It's not like it's Horford, right?
No.
Like his skill set does work with the things that are here. It's just you need it to just like at the margins. If it's like 5% better here and like 4% better here. Not even just like taking like 10% more three, like just doing it at a more regular level and being willing of those kinds of things and making. I would love to see a little more like decisiveness, just in general, like more decisive passing, less just like eyeing your man down and doing a 2008 Carmelo impression. Like give me some movement. Don't let the ball stick.
Well, and I agree with all of those things, and that the salary really just becomes so outrageous when you say, like, as I mentioned to you last time, that Covington's making 12 and PJ Tucker's making like 9 or 10, and the fact that Tobias Harris, if he's better than either of those players, it is slimly. And I would actually say both of those players would probably be better here.
Tobias can get a shot more than those guys can,
but
by a
just
lot.
Not in a way that makes you better, I think the problem is. So
I think that's why when I look at, you talk about guys like Tyler Herro, guys when you're talking about like, okay, what is your shot creating profile?
Yeah.
And are you good enough at that to where you're like, we want you doing it, like Jordan Clarkson can get his own shot and he had a good year last year, but for most of his career, he was not good at doing it. Like he could do it, but it wasn't done in an efficient way
he did
like is conducive to winning. Yeah. And so this team, for the years that Tobias has been here, outside of Jimmy, like has not had a guy that can do that as well as Tobias has. So he's had to be the guy to do it, but he's still not like in the top 10, 15% of like self creators that you want doing that kind of thing. It's like having that, middle of the road creator that you're paying that much money to is damaging to a team. Now where they're paying him, it's already done, it's happening. And I think he can be helpful, but I think because self-creation is the most like tantalizing skill in the league, it's at real risk of overpaying for someone who's only okay at it.
Yeah. And that's what they did. And it's the most tantalizing, and it's also what the Sixers need most, Yeah. The next two, I don't think we can predict. I just think that they're both important. That Ben Simmons does at least one of uses size and strength in the half court from the perimeter to get fouled at a very high rate, shoot from the outside at a reasonable rate, or play off ball and become a different offensive player than he has. He has to do one of those things, I think.
I'm going to assume no and be surprised.
Okay, that's fair. And then I don't know. I'm saying I don't know these. And the second one, does Joel Embiid, I know how much you love to want this, but does Joel Embiid want this enough for us to not, in the middle of the season, get the interview, like when they've lost 3 in a row and Embiid hasn't been playing well or whatever, where he says he's just not having fun anymore and he needs to have fun again? And like the third straight year of that, to me, would suggest that basketball might just not be fun enough for Joel, where if it's only fun when things are going perfect for you, you're always going to be miserable, like at least 30% of the time. And whether forget about the in shape, I don't know. But if he can stay mentally in there without losing hope during the season, I think it's pretty important. I don't know if he can.
And that's why you keep Justin Anderson on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to roster Joel's happiness guru.
Yep. And that's fine. And that's worth doing.
Next one. Can Shake Milton be the primary half-court ball handler for at least half the game and potentially do it in pressure situations?
I think some of it. I don't think half the game I think is overestimating it. I think
that's only 17 minutes or something. Half of his minutes, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think absolutely. I think it seems like they'll probably start Seth to open the season.
Yeah, I think
but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up starting Shake and liking Seth coming off the bench as a like nuclear shooter that they need to account for. Like Seth and Matisse coming off the bench like first is a really interesting, like, okay, we have to account for these guys on both ends. And that's kind of the punch that you want coming in.
I would bet they start Seth.
I think so for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it'll just depend on what Shake wants. I think Doc is trying to do Lou Williams stuff with Shake, which is fine. And we'll see how he grows doing that. But yeah, I think Shake has decent vision. I think he's a good ball handler. He needed to get stronger, so we'll see if all those pounds that he's talking about have actually come into play.
I saw the pictures of him, and he looks he was never quite Smoker's arms, but he did not look.
He had long arms, long, like skinny type arms.
Yeah, he didn't look sculpted. In the pictures I saw from the media day pictures or whatever, he looked much more cut than he has.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. I don't agree. I didn't see much there.
Oh, really?
I think any picture where their arms are folded and they're pushing their biceps up, I just can't trust.
Well, that's the Embiid. The Embiid arms folded one is. So this one, I feel like Morey has hedged against, especially with the on some level with the Zaire Smith trade. Does Dwight Howard at some point become a shithead and they have to cut bait? And it's most important just because of the amount of games that you figure Embiid will miss and the fact that they cannot play him 34, 35 minutes a game. I think that's an important one, Dwight.
Maybe he does seem to be on best behavior.
He does, and so far.
People seem to be liking him, and
I agree.
He called Korkmaz Corky, which is solid and a way into my heart. I would say no. I don't want to talk to him about other stuff, but like he seems like at this point in his career, he knows his role. He knows how to be successful, and especially if Embiid wants him there, like. There is help in like just showing him what it takes and what he's been through and stuff like that. Cause like there's a world where, I want to like do some sort of blessing before I say this, but like there's a world where Embiid's antics like age stalely like Dwight's did.
Like Dwight's, yeah, for sure.
And so I don't want that to happen. And so hopefully that's it's a here's what not to do type of lesson. And I think there's also like, think about Joel's backups over the years. He's never had a guy that like I don't know how much practicing they'll be doing this year, but like had a guy who can like bang physically with him, Mm-hmm. There's never been a like big, I guess Boban, but he's such a more interesting shape. But like as far as like physicality goes, sometimes those big guys, Marc Gasol, Jonas Valanciunas kind of things, those guys are a little bit difficult for Joel. And so maybe if there's if that is helping him against those types of guys, then that'd be interesting.
The next one is, can because as presently constructed, my math says we would need them. Can two of Isaiah Joe, Mike Scott, Matisse Thybulle, and Terrence Ferguson be playable in the playoffs? I want to give a shout out to Ricky, emailer Itmar, who asked a sort of similar question. Will not make mailbag because of this. I
would add Justin Anderson.
I would not. There's no way Justin Anderson is playing in the fucking playoffs, Mike.
That's happened before. Greg Monroe. Let's not rule it out.
It's not a good thing. I don't think if it happens.
I would say Matisse, yes, for some of it. Mike Scott, maybe. I don't believe in the other two guys at this point.
Yeah.
And we'll see about Justin Anderson. I do think I think the body plays.
Yeah.
But as far as the rest of it, what else are we getting out of it? But again, I think the thing that Daryl talks about on this podcast, and he's hinted at since, is like, it's not the team that you come into this season with is not the team that you have to go into the playoffs with. And so I think that there's flexibility here to package a couple things together. There's a trade exception. There's a couple picks in the future if they need to move on. I would say this team is one, possibly two. You didn't even add Korkmaz. Are you assuming Korkmaz isn't playable in the playoffs already? Is that a yes?
I guess I hadn't thought. Maybe I already counted him.
Generous.
I think he's a wing. He's really like, if there's one wing on the bench, actually, if I'm thinking about it, if there's one wing on the bench that I'm betting would play in the playoffs, who is it? Of those,
for me, it's Matisse. It's not close.
I actually think I would bet on Mike Scott before I bet on Thybulle.
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe. It's just a matter of like, Matisse now has, especially without Josh there, and especially with Seth and Danny there, Matisse's skill set is now. His weaknesses are less weak because they have other guys that can do that, and his strengths are more relevant because they don't have as many guys that can like create that many dynamic possessions defensively and disrupt. So I think it's. I think I would also add Tyrese Maxey as a guy that certainly has the chance to compete with those other guys and be playable in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was thinking more wing and less guard. And by the way, like watching Maxey's, the shot will probably end up going in at a reasonable rate, but he doesn't shoot in a way that seems like he will end up as a 38 to 40% 3-point shooter. Like it's kind of like a push thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. Anyway, I was talking wings, not guards. And I just don't think a rookie in the playoffs, but we'll see. I don't know. I would love for him to be. And my final,
you talked about Tyler Herro.
Yeah, right? Maybe he's the next Tyler Herro.
I mean, undersized guards from Kentucky that are kind of combo guards. It's the same thing.
And then final one of mine, though you do have a ninth. Are they able to find a crunch time offense that is repeatable somehow? And they have not been able to do that. And without a dynamic perimeter player, I am curious how they figure it out.
I will say it'll be significantly better than last year, but it'll still be sort of cobbled together from like parts, right? Where I think Doc will give Ben and all these guys the opportunity to run and get quick offense and not be afraid to, take a three off a kick out with like 18 seconds left on the shot clock. Mm-hmm. And I think Embiid will obviously get plenty of opportunities to score from the post, and with more shooting around him, that will hopefully make double teams, other teams pay for double teams. And we'll see about who's running pick and roll and how effective that is. But it doesn't seem like, in playoffs and crunch time, it just seems like you really need like easy offense. Yeah. And I don't see easy offense on this team yet. And maybe they'll get there. Maybe Shake takes a big step forward. Maybe Seth is, becomes more, dynamic with the ball in his hands. The shot is real. It's just a matter of like how quickly can he get it off. And maybe Maxey is good enough at getting to the rim right away. He certainly has a skill set that we need. But I don't think it's going to be easy quite yet.
Yeah, I agree. And what is your ninth?
My ninth is not a question. They got less hot. Like they're a less hot team. I think
this shit again.
That's probably good. But there was pictures from Media Day where it showed them, and I know some of those guys are just camp bodies, and they're going to go, and that'll raise the overall hotness of the team.
You're such a weirdo.
But they're weaker on that level, and I think that's ultimately a good thing for on-court production. I think something, you don't want too many hot guys. It becomes a real competition, and everyone just like we're too hot to care, that kind of stuff. But
the Lakers certainly weren't super handsome this year. I don't think.
Certainly not as handsome. Yeah, there's a couple of good looking guys. I think Kuzma, obviously. I think the Sixers losing Josh, Horford's a good looking dude. Mm-hmm. Losing Raul Neto, mm-hmm. Kylo Quinn is handsome. Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson, pretty handsome. And replacing them with like Danny Green, like not very attractive. Like, let's be honest here. Seth Curry,
yeah,
okay. I would say I can't separate Dwight the attractive from Dwight the man. I think Tyrese Maxey above average handsomeness for sure. Tony Bradley, not attractive. Dakota Mathias, no thank you. Paul Reed, weird looking game, odd looking dude. Like it's just I think it's good ultimately, but I think we need to all adjust our expectations for how hot we want these boys to be.
You're fucking. Oh, and by the way, no offense, Daryl, but Elton Brand's a better looking guy than you are.
Oh yeah, come on.
Yeah.
But Elton's still there, so I guess we'll count it.
Yeah.
And I think Brett's probably better looking than Doc.
Yeah, I agree with you there too.
Pretty clear.
Somehow, I know it's only his son-in-law, but Seth Curry definitely looks like his parents were Steph Curry and Doc Rivers.
I don't see it.
He looks like they took Steph Curry and they Doc Riversed him up a little bit and became Seth Curry. I don't know. Take a look at it. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by one of our dog sponsors, our first dog sponsor. That is Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Love Big Barker.
I got the dog bed for my friends.
Oh, really?
Shane and Tiffany got a dog named Rhonda.
Okay.
And Rhonda got a large Barker Jr.
Oh, there you go.
And it's nice. I think they got it in khaki, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And I got a video last night of Rhonda laying on there, joints supported, having a great time.
Yeah.
So they're very pleased.
It's funny you mentioned the khaki. We got a new process pup named Arrow. And Arrow and his sister Abby sleep on the Big Barker together. And I got a picture of the khaki one, and it is really nice looking. I have I think it's called, I don't know if it's called chocolate or whatever. I have the dark brown one for Rebel, and I have a gray one for Rebel, but I have not seen this khaki one. It looks really niix.
Yeah.
Look.
I didn't even ask if they wanted the process pup patch. I was just like, it's going to be a yes. I didn't.
Yeah.
If they just moved into a new place, maybe they didn't want my podcast logo prominently featured. That was not a consideration. They got it.
So here's how you get the processed pup patch. You go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get 2 processed pup patches, actually. And here's the good news, unfortunately for Mike, but good for Mike's friends, that you have to iron it on yourself, the processed pup patch. I hope they do. It doesn't come on there. You have to put it on. Very easy to iron on.
They will.
Big Barker is the only dog bed that your dog should be sleeping on, because it's the only dog bed that has been proven by the University of Pennsylvania Vet School to actually be healthier for your dog by supporting your dog's joints. Proven. It's amazing. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. As well, your dog needs a Christmas present. If it's anything like my house, Rebel gets plenty of presents. What better than a present that your dog will love and makes your dog healthier? There is a 10-year warranty on the Big Barker dog bed. 10 years. You're like, oh, it's a little expensive. Well, first of all, it's your dog's health. But second of all, it's going to last you 10 years. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, your dog doesn't like it, they will give you a full refund, even pay for the shipping. And it is made right here in the USA. Actually made right here in the southeastern PA, which is even better. Big Barker dog beds.
Rhonda.
Back to the Ricky. Before we go, these are both statements. They are not questions, so they won't take very long. 2 notes from the Lorenzo Brown mailbag. Writes rickysanchez@gmail.com. This is from Brian. I'm listening to the second most recent pod. I saw Furkan outside his apartment a couple weeks ago. Very, very much did not get bigger. The dude is a twig. Was looking like a snack, though. So
that's fair.
There you go. And then this comes from Pat. Just a nice story. Dear Spike and Mike, I've been working at a brew pub in the suburbs of Philly for the last 3 years as a prep cook and a host. The last 5 months have been super chaotic. I'm COVID conscious and would choose not to work in public right now if it weren't for my student loan debt. Our staff is always on edge, and we've had a COVID scare already. I've been cursed out a couple of times by customers who don't believe in masks, and I've even had someone call the police on himself as he believed it was his right to not have a mask in our private property. All that said, I found going to work during the pandemic not the best for my mental health. I bought a Ricky mask from Buddha Babe when they were first released, and I've been wearing it to work a lot. So far, no one has understood what it means, and it's weird explaining it to them. So it's a basketball podcast about the Sixers. Sometimes they talk about music. Sometimes they talk about dogs. Sometimes they talk about lawyers and Delaware real estate. Until yesterday, during the busy lunch rush, someone finally said the name. He and his wife had traveled to the city for the first time. It caught me off guard, but for 30 seconds, walking him to his table, we geeked out over Justin Anderson and his bench presence. I thought this was exactly the conversation I was hoping for when I bought the mask. It made my day, and I wanted to shout out the guy to see if he's still listening to the pod. It turned out to be an awesome customer to my good friend who served him, and I'm glad the Ricky community is filled with people like him. Love the pod. So,
that's very nice. And what a dark and stupid time we are living in.
Well, I'm glad we were able to bring it together, bring those 2 people together and support a small business in Buddha Babe. And I hope Pat continues to be cautious and safe, especially over the next couple of months. We've been doing the pod on Wednesdays for a while, but we will do a pod on Tuesday night, as Tuesday night is the return of Sixers basketball. I can't believe it's happening again. We will talk about our first look at the new look Sixers. That is Tuesday night. So looking forward to it, I guess, on some level.
Do we know if everybody's playing or because some teams have been sitting out there?
I think they need to play. I mean, I wouldn't play Simmons or Embiid more than 15 or 20 minutes, but they need to play together. You know, I
sure.
So, are you?
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. I mean, it is. You know, we are. You know, we'll see. I mean, I guess it's just I feel relatively optimistic. In between intermittent, crushing depression at the state of the world and our lives. So a good Sixers team, and now I'm counting on the Sixers, not only counting on the Sixers to, not make me unhappy. Now I'm actually counting on them to make me happy. And that is a really dangerous proposition for me to put them in.
That always works really, really well with sports. So good thing. Fingers crossed.
Good stuff.
We'll talk to you Tuesday night. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, you know, like face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
That's a plan.